You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
James Wallstrom is always by Patrick Kelly and Nick Knoll, and on the line with us right now is a true legend in tag team wrestling. You know what? There's a wrestling company on right now that proclaims two of their guys are the best tag team of all time, but in my opinion and in my estimation, the best tag team wrestler of all time, right on the line with us right now, Road Warrior Animal. Animal, are you with us?
I'm with you guys. How you guys doing, man?
We're doing great, man. It's a great honor to have you on the program. I can't believe it, but it's been over 8 years for me doing this show, and we never, ever crossed paths, so it's so great to have you on.
Well, you know, to lead into your subject, your lead conversation here, who is this other supposed great tag team anyway?
It's the Dudley Boys, or Team 3D.
The Dudley Boys. Well, that doesn't even deserve a discussion or an argument. So I'm not, you know, I don't need even to go there with you guys. You guys are true wrestling fans. You're experts in what you do. You know, Hawk and I have achieved things that no other tag team will ever achieve in the wrestling business. So, you know, I think our record's safe to say that it'll be okay.
I agree with that.
One thing I will say about the Road Warriors is that I thought you guys were the precursor to Goldberg.
You know, he could have, you know, there's a lot of Goldberg in the Road Warriors, you know what I mean? I mean, we did a lot of the stuff, you know, his flying spear, you know, we did the flying tackles, and, you know, we you know, there's a lot of aggressiveness in the Road Warrior gimmick, but, you know, then again, you know, I think both the Road Warriors, when you physically get in the gym, will probably combine two of the strongest guys ever in the wrestling business together as a tag team.
Yeah, and the thing about you guys, too, that was so different about so many others, and I think that's what we're lacking right now, is you guys were legitimate characters. You guys were not your everyday guys you'd see on the street corner. And, you know, if Jimmy Garvin's DVD, I don't know if you had a chance to see it, he filmed it backstage at the Great American Bash. You guys were just screwing around and having fun, and, you know, you guys seemed like you were two definite characters to be around back then.
Well, you know, I think that's what's missing with the wrestling business today, guys. Well, no, it's got very clone-ish. What I mean by that is guys don't have the opportunity to go and learn and let their character and to see if a guy's got charisma. If a guy can't talk, they just throw somebody else in the interview, and they still, you know, he'll be a champion in some other, you know, in some other facet. And in my age growing up, you had to have charisma, you had to have talent, you had to have athletic ability, and you got to be able to perform. And, you know, I think that's a lost art in the business today.
Absolutely. But we didn't just bring you on to shoot the crap. We also brought you on to talk about your new book, which is out now, Road Warriors, and that is called Danger, Death, and the Rush of Wrestling. And you know what? This book has been out, a couple weeks now, and there's been some buzz on the Internet about it. You know, I think that one of the things that people are seeing about this one is it's a really genuine book. Well,
you know, I didn't, there's no BS in the book. You know, I don't slam anybody in the book. I tell a couple of character-like situations, you know, like my trip to Vince's house and stuff like that. But I don't bury anybody in the book. You're not going to hear about, oh, this guy did that, or that guy did this, or this guy did this much cocaine, or anything like that. I'm not into that slamming process. I'm not going to rip people in a book. It's basically a chronological timeline of what the Road Warriors' career was all about from the start to finish, you know?
Exactly, and that's what's so cool about it, is that it is really like going through the journey. But it's not the same. If you watch the DVD that WWE put out, it's not the same journey. You get more information in the book than you did from just watching the DVD.
Well, you know, in the DVD, you know, when they put out the DVD, you know, they'll cut and splice and make the DVD look up whatever way they want it to look. You know the way the wrestling business is in the promotion. The book is the honest truth of how things were when there were suspensions for abuse of any kind. You know, what it was like. I mean, I tell what it was like as to have a partner when you get suspended. And, I mean, you know, I get into a couple hairy things, but I don't bury anybody, and I don't say anything that the people haven't already guessed or heard online anyway. All I do is I confirm it.
Mm-hmm. Very cool, very cool. Now, it's been a long time since we lost Animal, and I got to tell you, I was at one of your guys' last appearance out here in Arizona, Eloy, Arizona. It was one of your last matches, I assume, and you know, it was great to be there and to see you guys together in the ring. What took so long for you to decide to finally put this on paper?
Well, if you think about it, the wrestling business, you know, they try to do that thing with Heidrake and I, which is an absolute bust from the very beginning. I only tried as a businessman to get it done. I didn't have very much faith because, you know, like I've always said, many imitators, no duplicators, and nobody could replace Hawk. and nobody could replace Animal. You know what I mean? It's just the way we work together. We gelled that way. And to be honest with you, there was a bunch of books that came out that I thought were honestly garbage. In that meantime there, in that 5, 6, 7 year period, there were a lot of garbage books. Guys were just putting out books to put them out, and it didn't mean anything. So I just was waiting until, the calm after the storm, wait until everything calmed down, and, now my book's out. And it's right behind Jericho's book, and, his book's been out for 2 months, and mine's been out for, 1 day? Legally 1 day. It came out March 1st, so, I've gotten great reviews on it, and, it has to do with the great career that I had with my partner, Hawk. If I didn't have Hawk as a partner and Paul Ellering to help teach us, it would have been a way different career.
Now, we asked this of Jericho as well last week, and we'll ask you, was it important for you to do this, even though if you would have done it with the WWE, they probably would have, circulated it more, advertised it more, really promoted it, and maybe even sold a few more copies. But the legitimacy and the realism of the book would probably be tampered because they'd want to have some kind of effect on editing things that they didn't agree with out. Was it important for you to do it independent of them?
Yes. That was my main thing. They, had come to me and they wanted me to do the Legends action figures with Mattel, that was a new company, and get rid of Janko. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I'll do that. I said, but the thing I need to have is I already have a book deal, and I need to do my book deal separate. And it really wasn't much of a discussion. They gave me a book deal, and I don't think they really realized that the book was going to be of the quality it is.
Oh, it's a nice.
Not only does it look good, it's a great book. You know what I mean? And then the cover's great, and that black book with the red paint outline on it, it's unbelievable. Now, I'm so proud of that darn book. But you're right. They would have changed my story to fit whatever their mold was, and I didn't want to let that happen. Besides that, I would not have made as much money on the book if they would have had it. I'd have made a lesser percentage.
You think so?
Yep, I know I would have.
Oh, wow. Now, you're right about the book, by the way, though. It's, there's pictures in it. The cover looks awesome. It's just a great-looking cover. And, I'll even tell you this, the truth. I've had Chris Jericho's book, and I thumbed through it, and I have your book, and I've read most of it and all that I get sent, as freebies. But my wife, she went through Bruce Hart's book. She went through Chris Jericho's book. She's like, I'm not interested in reading it. Yours, though? And this is not blowing smoke up your butt. Yours, she said, wow, I'm going to read this one. So, it is eye-catching as well to the not necessarily huge Road Warriors fan, but to somebody who definitely, it catches their attention.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that, and that means a lot to me because, I think our gimmick, and this is one thing that separates us, and nothing against the Dudleys, they're a great tag team, and I was kidding about the comments before.
Yeah.
But when you compare us to every other tag team in the wrestling business, there's only one team that has crossed the boundaries of being, I think at one time we were international champs, NWA champs, and WCW champs, or Georgia Championship Wrestling champs at one time. We had 3 different belts. We were the only team to transcend and go to those for companies which no other team will be able to go now. You're either WWE or you're TNA.
Exactly.
We took pride in that, not in chance of winning the belts, but being the representative of whatever company we're with to draw money for the house and to give the people a good show. At the end of the day, if we don't have people like yourself doing shows like this, if we don't have the fans, we really don't have a wrestling business. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the transfer of things sometimes, you know what I mean? And it's got to be about the fan, number one, first. And this is what this is, man. I think some of the things that are in my book are what fans really, or some of the things I get asked on a daily basis when I was on the road. And now I'm answering a lot of questions that I've been asked in the past, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you've done a few interviews since then. How has the media tour been for you so far? You burnt out on talking to us guys yet?
No, man, I'll tell you what. Hey, listen, if it wasn't for guys like yourself and, Bill Apter of Pro Wrestling Illustrated did my first cover shot and everything else, the Road Warriors would never got as popular as we did. And it's with guys like yourself and other different companies and different radio stations that I've done and podcasts, I've all along the way been real good supporters of the Road Warriors. We've hardly had any negative stuff said about us at all in our 22-year career, which is pretty phenomenal. You think about the wrestling business,
Yeah, everybody's brutal these days. So,
it's really brutal, And with the new WWE 24/7 show that plays over in China and Korea and in the UK, we're like brand new because there's only one team that was a champion of all those different companies, and that's us.
Exactly.
So
you can watch AWA, you can watch Crockett, whatever it is, you guys are on there.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's a thrill to know it'll go on for years to come, and hopefully people get a good kick out of the book, and everything in there is the total truth, so there's no BS in it.
I do have to ask you about a couple of your more intricate matches, and they're talked about in the book. One of them was the scaffold match, Starrcade '86, and I got to tell you, we've had Jim Cornette on the show a number of times, and I don't think he'll ever get over that fall. One of the more priceless moments in wrestling history.
I'm telling you, if you could have seen it the way I saw it, up there on the scaffold, sitting there holding on to Jimmy Cornette's arm, and he's going, "Animal, now don't drop me. Don't you drop me." I said, "Don't worry." I said, "Bubba's going to catch you down there." I said, "He's going to catch you." And I said, "Bubba, you ready?" Bubba's down there. "Yeah, I'm ready." And I see him, and I said, "Man, he doesn't look like he's in the right spot." And then Cornette just lets go. I mean, you understand, at the time, Jimmy Cornette was about 260 pounds of not the best built guy in the world, right? And I'm trying to hold him with my arms, like hanging over the scaffold, and so he says, "Okay, I'm ready." I'll let him go. And Bubba says he's ready. Well, I watched Bubba look straight down, and Jimmy landed right on the floor, and I could hear his knees just go. Oh, my knees. I tell you what, I didn't know whether to feel sorry for him or piss my pants laughing so hard, because Jimmy, he hit like a lead brick, man, and I knew Boss Man, but Bubba wasn't, God bless his soul, wasn't going to catch him. If he would have catch him, he probably would have broke his back. It was 20 feet up there, 20 feet above the ring.
That's crazy.
And he's going
to, I mean, you were involved in some crazy stuff like that, and do you think that you guys, I asked Randy Savage this because he was the first guy to do like the chicken wire cage matches, and you guys were really brought it to another level with the scaffolds. Do you guys think that you guys were kind of the precursor for what we now know as hardcore wrestling?
Probably, but, at then it was just done for a special event. Like you had the war games and the scaffold matches. I mean, I did probably about 150 scaffold matches.
Wow.
And I got to the point that halfway through them, we were starting to throw drop kicks up on those 3-foot wide scaffolds. Yeah, I don't know anybody that's ever done that before. Even the Rock and Roll Express, when they used to do it, they never even threw drop kicks on those things, because it's a pretty stupid move to do, I will say myself,
They were pretty rickety, too, weren't they?
Oh, they were so unstable because they had to be put up by the union guys who worked in the buildings. And they had no idea how to secure them like the Crockett's did themselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about, and you were with the WWE a few years ago, so maybe you have some more insight on this, but one of the major complaints from the wrestling fan base nowadays is that tag team wrestling has just gone to the wayside, and it's never featured as prominently as it was when you were around. Do you have any idea of what's led to the WWE deciding to do that, or do you have any idea if Vince just doesn't like tag team wrestling, or what's the story there?
Well, if you look through time, tag team wrestling has been weeded out by the WWF, WWE for years. I mean, they always put all the glory, money, payoffs, and everything always goes with a single world heavyweight champion. They always have. And, I don't know why or what the reasoning is for fading out tag team wrestling. To me, honestly, I think a tag team match is 10 times more interesting than a single match. There's a lot more going on.
If it's done right, yeah.
Well, if it's done right, yeah. Sometimes you have 2 managers and 4 guys. There's 6 guys supposed to referee 7, and to keep it all straight, it's actually an art to keep everything smooth and going through. And that's a tribute to the guys we worked with, like the Midnight Express and the 4 Horsemen. They were just ring generals, man. Hawk and I were young kids at the time. We just shut our mouths, say, "Okay, lead us around. What do you want us to do?" And it was easier to entertain the fans that way. And it helped a little bit because we were sitting in the car one day and all of a sudden we heard Black Sabbath Iron Man play, and I said, "This is our song with the." I mean, it gives you goosebumps when you hear about it.
Oh yeah.
But that started the whole match, and when it starts on such a high, which is known today, when people people get a cheer today going to the ring, whether it's John Cena or anybody else, it's always called the Warrior Pop. And it was kind of named after Hawk and I. If a guy gets a loud cheer, like The Rock on Monday night, he got a Warrior Pop when he came down to the ring. It's a standing ovation, chilling pop, that was named after us. Kind of a, under the table type of a comment in the wrestling business. But it was, hey, it is what it is, man. The people we were good at entertaining people in a tag team manner. That's why Hawk and I never, ever were ever going to turn against each other, wrestle each other like they did with some tag teams, because I think it just insulted everything that we stood for in tag team wrestling.
Now, and I agree with that. When you went to the WWF, though, it always seemed to me, and maybe I was viewing this wrong, but as a fan, there was 2 wrestling video games of the early generation. One had Hulk Hogan on the cover. The other one was the WCW game, which had the Road Warriors on the cover. Mm-hmm. And, it seemed to me like when you guys went to WWE, they pushed you. Oh, you guys were big there and all that, but it seemed like they kind of had a glass ceiling, always trying to just a little bit keep you below the main event. And did you feel that way at all? Am I really?
It's funny that you say that because we felt like that plenty of times. That attributes to why my partner acted the way he did a few times and was kind of rebellious. Different personal financial things we can't get into that we were promised that never happened, which really pissed Hawk off.
Yeah.
I can't give you a guaranteed contract, but I know you'll make at least this much money, and then when you fall $100,000 short, it kind of pisses a person off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but I tell you what though, it's again a tribute to the fans. They tried to, and they tried to, and they tried to, but hey, when we went over to Wembley Stadium in London, England,
oh yeah,
who was second in marketing? The Road Warriors and all our gimmicks. Who sold us? I mean. So they tried to put a cap on it a lot of times, but you know what? We just were a fan favorite, and we were a kid favorite. We sold more foam rubber shoulder pads and everything else, and we would guarantee you a good show. Win, lose, draw, you're going to get a good show from us. And don't get me wrong, WWE is a great company now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they take care of the guys now. The guys get hurt, they pay for the operations, they take care of everything else. When I was going through it, I had to pay for all my own injuries. Like when Warlord landed on my head, my eye popped out, I had to pay for all my own surgery. I mean, so it's a different timing now in the wrestling business, So.
Absolutely.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Wembley Stadium because James and I were just talking about this match off the air, and your match with Money Inc. at that show we think is one of the best matches you had in the WWF. But I got to ask this because that match just reminds me of this. Who came up with Rocco, and who thought that was a good idea?
Well, bro, you're being very kind. Let's be honest. That match with Money Inc. was absolutely freaking horrendous.
Right.
And I'll tell you why. We were supposed to be wrestling the Natural Disasters for the Tag Team Championships that event. What happened was my partner, if you guys know anything about drugs at all, what Placidils do for you, one Placidil will make you loopy. My partner puts 2 in his mouth and chews them, and it's like eating straight kerosene, okay?
Oh, my gosh.
This is because he and Jake Roberts and a couple other guys all knew they were going to get suspended for 3 months when we got back. Word leaked out. So Hawk figures, well, heck, I'm going to get suspended, so I might as well make this match fun. Well, as we're going through the warm-up of the matches, Hawk's on the Harley, and Vince is trying to talk to us, and he's swaying back and forth, almost going backwards downhill on the Harley. Vince looks at me, and I could tell he was just freaking livid. Vince was just livid. So to punish us, we went from semi-main event to first match.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't bad because it was a good way to start off the show. We got such an ovation when they played our music. You couldn't hear the Harley or our music because all those people in Great Britain were chanting, that LOD. And it was so loud, the cheers. I never heard anything like it to this day of how loud that was. And Hawk was so messed up during the finish, I literally had to push him out of the way and say, Hawk, move. Because they originally wanted, me to get IRS up on my shoulders, Hawk come off the top rope, and he'd do the Doomsday. Well, Hawk couldn't climb up to the top rope. Yeah, he was so messed up, and I wasn't going to take the chance of him getting hurt.
You're just amazed he was able to walk, much less wrestle a match.
People were saying they don't know how he could walk because he just kept going on and on and on all day, And it was just but the Rocco thing, I don't know where that came from. See, every promoter we ever worked for always tried to find something to soften us a little bit because, let's face it, we came through there, and like you said, in every territory we went to or every company we went to, we just kind of ran roughshod. Not in being bullies, but the way the promoters wanted us to be, Oh, well, here come the Road Warriors. We'll draw money with these guys. Bam, 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 bam. And you're beating up. Okay, it looked like we wrestled Demolition. We came into WWF at the time.
Yeah. Actually,
we smoked Demolition, and in about a month they were gone.
Exactly. Actually, that was my next question.
But getting back to my other point there,
sure.
with you know, the Rocco thing, that was an idea to sell for marketing-wise, to try to soften us up that, well, let's just say that frickin' doll never made it off an airplane again after that event. That thing got lost or burnt up or something. I think I hated that thing more than anything else in the world.
so there's no, like, Rocco doll?
Just being honest with you, there's not going to be any Rocco Hall of Fame, I'll tell you that.
So if Mattel calls you up and say, hey, we want to do the LOD figures with a little Rocco doll accompany it, you wouldn't be a fan of that one?
Well, you know, hey, give me $1 million up front, do what you want. I don't care. You know what I mean? You know, but no, it wasn't a good part of our gimmick. But hey, you know, at least they tried to do something. You know what I mean? Yeah. And at the time, the only other tag team to work with at that time was DX. You know, because they were beating the heck out of the Godwins, they were beating the heck out of everybody else. And you know, hey, there's Rocco. Oh, jeez, man. Right. They should have just made a Rocco tag team. We could have wrestled them.
Oh man. Well, there's a lot of questions I can ask you, and I mean, if we had all the time in the world, we'd ask you all of it.
Well, what was the one you had about Demolition?
Actually, Bill Eadie. He's a good friend of the show. I helped him get a couple bookings here and there, and legitimately nice guy. And when we had him on, he was pretty adamant about Demolition not being, as it was pretty much just cut and dry pasted a Road Warriors knockoff. Did you feel, you guys, that they were definitely a Demolition? What's wrong with me? Road Warriors knockoff. No,
and you know why I don't? Because A, Bill's a good friend of mine, and B, Barry's one of my best friends. Smash. So I mean, listen, the difference between Demolition and us was Demolition. You put two wrestlers together, you painted them up, and you had them talk like tough guys. Reverse of us was we came right out of the bar bouncing and went into the wrestling business. Mm-hmm. So we came into the business fighting. You know what I mean by that? I mean, not as bullies, but we came in with a mindset and an attitude that was so different than everybody else's. I thought that the company missed a boat by us beating Demolition so fast and so clean and everything else. I think we could have had a year-long program with those guys and drew a lot of money for the company. But, hey, the company didn't want to have it. I don't think they were a Road Warrior knockoff. I just think they were their own gimmick in their own way.
Yeah. Because
when you put us both next to each other, paper to paper, I mean, we pretty much stand alone as far as that kind of gimmick goes. And you know what? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, man. I mean, you know, and Barry's one of my better friends, and so is Bill. And, hey, more power to them. If they can make money to this day being Demolition by doing spot shows and appearances, God bless them. Let them make money. You know what I mean? I never took it personal. I never did. I know a lot of people find that, you know, geez, how could you not be pissed at them? I'll say, hey, man, listen, everybody always remembers the original.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's never going to be another Rock. There's never going to be another Hulk Hogan. Probably never be another Nature Boy. But there's never going to be another Road Warriors.
No.
You know, it's just something that's always going to go down in the annals of history. It's something that was special, and it was because of great fans that made it special, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Actually, going back to what you said, one of the things that I've always argued is that I felt like you and Demolition should have had a match at WrestleMania 7. That's something that they should have built to.
Bro, I agree with you. I agree with you. Or at minimum, what you could have done, even before Crush, you could have had an 8-man tag or something. And you know, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but you know, it worked. And it was in WCW when they had the 6-man championship belts, and we had it with Dusty.
Yeah,
you could have made 8-man belts that had Demolition and us on the same team. You know what I mean? Like you would have made a pay-per-view of the 8-man tag team championships, and you have everybody in the company go on 4-man teams and see who's the best 4-man team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been a great idea, but you know, hey, what do we know? We're just wrestlers. We don't know how to draw money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing that could have been that, and the fact that when Hogan was still with WWE, they should have done is they should have put us in a 6-man with Hogan. We should have been he should have been getting his butt kicked, and he said, hey, I'm bringing in some partners for you guys, and that's the way they should have introduced us into the company. We come in as Hogan's partners. Hogan gets the win. We just help him kick some rear end. And next thing you know, everything's cool and dreamy, and now you're making money for the company. But, you know, hey, who knows why things are done the way they are sometimes.
They had you with Warrior against Demolition, like the MSG loop. And that was, those were some interesting matches. You didn't like those?
They were stupid. No, I didn't like them because Animal Hawk, you can't do any clothesline because Warrior does clothesline. Animal, you can't press slam and drop a guy behind you because Warrior does it. Animal, you can't do the flying shoulder because Warrior does it. Well, where do you think Warrior got them all from? From watching the Road Warriors. Come on, man. Every movie guy you got from watching us, you know. I said, now we had to change our repertoire. I hated those matches because Hawk and I really couldn't be us.
Oh, boy.
I mean, seriously, here we are in a six-man match against Demolition and Madison Square Garden, one of the meccas of wrestling, right?
Right.
And Hawk and I are on the outside of the ring, and Warrior's beating up all three of them by themselves. Well, what do you need us for? we could have got tickets and had a soda pop and been in the front row eating a bag of popcorn and watching ourselves.
Yep, there you go. I do have to ask you, and I don't know that you were around him. Well, you were around him some, but I don't know about that much. But I got to ask you, everybody's got an Andre story. Did you have any Andre stories?
Yeah, I got a pretty good Andre story.
What story you got?
Andre was a true giant, okay?
Yes, sir.
I'll give you an Andre story. I didn't have any problems with Andre. You know, we ran down a couple times when, I forget who was jumping him, Nasty Boys or something. We helped Andre, and Andre always liked us. And but I'll give you a story. We're in London, England. We're on the bus. Everybody's on the bus, and Flair's the last one. I'm on before Flair. There's nowhere else to sit except next to Andre. So I take the seat, sit in the booth next to Andre, which is very, as you can imagine, with Andre in the booth, there's very little for my butt cheek to sit on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Flair comes in, he looks at me, he just starts cracking up. He says, Animal, you look like a ventriloquist dummy on Andre's lap. and I did. And I looked next to the giant, and my head's about half the size of Andre's, and I was about 320 at the time. And that's how big Andre was. He made me look tiny sitting next to Andre.
Wow.
You know, and then there was another time when we were in Tokyo. There's this place called the Pink Pussycat.
Is it? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Andre had a girlfriend that ran the Pink Pussycat. And so it was our first time over in Japan, and Hawk and I don't know we don't know where we're going. We're just walking, trying to find a way back to the hotel from Ribera Steakhouse. And all of a sudden we see these pink lights in the champagne glass. Hawk goes, Animal, that's the Pink Pussycat. Let's stop in there. That's famous for all the boys stop in there. I said, oh, okay. We go in there. There's like 5 stools, and in the corner is the giant sitting there with this Japanese girl feeding him drinks. He was just amazingly huge, Andre was. It was funny to see him in those situations because, you know, the Japanese people are petite people for the most part, you know.
Yeah, they're usually smaller, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and there's Andre, just a massive giant in a corner. And that was the very first time we met Andre.
Oh, wow. And he always liked you guys then?
Yeah, we never had a problem with Andre.
Cool.
You know, hey, he's one of those guys, you respect the giant, respect what he did, and do whatever he asks, and you're okay.
Very cool. Well, I got only a few more questions for you, then we'll let you go for the evening. But, you know, one of the things that I found very cool about it is that Paul Ellering wrote the foreword on your book. And, you know, Paul Ellering has kind of been, for whatever reason, not as remembered as he probably should be in the modern era of wrestling. How important was Paul Ellering to the Road Warriors?
Paul Ellering was the only, and I say only, real manager in professional wrestling. And what I mean by that is, when we were working independence after working for Georgia Championship Wrestling and the NWA, Paul would book us in places like Japan, and we would work in Montreal, we would work up for the Rougeaus for the whole summer. Paul would book us, work out the money deals, everything, and we would just go, and he'd say, hey, you got to be at the airport this day. And we'd go there, and he'd get all the tickets squared away and do everything for us. He even helped us out with the old, you know, the business napkin presentation, you know. Sit at the table, he'd throw a napkin on the table, he says, okay, well, listen, you guys are looking like a couple cluster, you know what's in the ring. Animal, you're here. Hawk, you're here outside. Animal, bring the guy over, tag Hawk, throw him in, drop down, Hawk, you kick the guy. You know, we worked on high spots and different things to do in the ring, sitting around at a table, which I guarantee hardly anybody ever did with their managers, because most of the time in this business, the manager is just an add-on to your gimmick. With Ellering, he was a shooting part of the Road Warriors.
There you go.
You know.
And he eventually came in the WWF, but at first they didn't bring him in. You know, why didn't they bring him in right away?
Who knows?
Don't
that
know.
could be pissed off at Hawk, or, you know, who knows why things happen at the time. You know what I mean?
Very cool.
The only smart, logical thing is that you bring them in with the Road Warriors. I mean, if you introduce them later, you don't bring them in with DOA. You bring them in with the Road Warriors.
Mm-hmm. Now, I got one last question, then I'll hand it over to the guys to finish up for you. And I got to ask this. I got 2 left, and they're both probably questions you get tired of getting asked. But it had to be irksome for you guys, and it was irksome for me as a fan, because you guys were younger than most of the WCW roster. To be on the WWF TV and have the New Age Outlaws chanting OLD at you guys, were you guys okay with that, or were you frustrated with it?
You know, there's certain things in the wrestling business that I call cheap heat. When you get the fans that yell at you because you're calling somebody OLD, that is so freaking cheap. It's not even like getting heat. Right. They're not really getting mad at you for beating somebody up. They're getting mad at you for calling somebody old, which is totally ridiculous, because when they were chanting at the time, I was in my 30s.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example. I was at a show, WWF house show. Fan was chanting OLD at you, and this kid was wearing a Sting shirt. And I'm like, younger Sting's, animals younger than Sting.
Sting's 4 years older than I am. Maybe 5 years older than I am. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. That was kind of the things. I mean, I even said, hey, listen, man, you're going to get heat on us. Get heat on us by doing something. Power bomb me through a table or something. Don't be chanting old LD, or the I don't know, man, like the Super Soaker thing that they were doing. They were good enough talent. They didn't need to do that cheap stuff. But then again, the business went in the age of being dark per se.
Yeah.
And that was supposedly the cool thing to do. And I think by the ratings, they found out that it wasn't the cool thing to do.
Yeah. There you go. Well, man, I've got to tell you, it's been great to have you on. And I know you get tired of getting asked this, but with your brother being the bigwig over at the WWE, I guess don't need to ask you, do you have any aspirations whatsoever about being either part of that office or part of the training?
Bro, probably since Hawk has passed away, I made it very clear to the people who work in the WWE office before my brother got hired there. I always had aspirations of, I'm a coach at heart. I love coaching kids. I love coaching the new guys. I was down at FCW, and I feel like I was one of the best coaches there for the big guys, teaching the big guys how to be big guys, how to be big men, because there's a difference between being a big guy and a little guy, and how to sell and attack somebody and everything else. I was down there for about 2 weeks teaching the guys. It's no secret. They know I would love to be a part of that company behind the scenes, being an agent or helping the new product develop, however I can help it. And it's kind of like beating a dead horse at this point. I've gotten tired of asking. It's put a strain on my brother's relationship and my relationship. The fact that I'm to the point now where I'm over it, and he's my brother. I love him, and it is what it is. And hey, I look at it, if they don't hire me, it's their loss, not my loss.
Exactly.
Because I have the right positive attitude in mind. I'm a company guy. Right. You hire me, I'm going to be a company guy. I'm going to back you up, be the man for you, everything else. But hey, it is what it is, and it hasn't worked out that way. But do I still think they're a great company? Absolutely. Yeah. Do I know why I'm not there? No. It's pretty much plain and simple that. So yeah. Instead of dragging it on for you and trying to give you a BS answer, I'll just shoot straight with you and say, yeah, it is what it is, man. What can I do?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I saw your shoot interview that you did back in 2000, and from watching it, I could tell kind of a little bit about your guys' personality, and you seemed like you were a little bit more business, and Hulk was maybe a little bit more of a loose cannon, especially at that point in later years. Was I be accurate in saying that?
Oh, so totally. If you ever to talk to Paul Ellering, he'll tell you, Animal was the Rock. And what he meant by that is I was kind of the glue that kept the ship together, because part of the ship always wanted to sail a different way. Mm-hmm. And I would keep Hawk, pretty much zoned in on where we need to go and everything else, especially after Paul decided to retire. And when, when all that was said and done, I mean, heck, Hawk's gone. I think I've been a great businessman over the years. I've never burnt any bridges, never pissed off any promoters, certainly haven't pissed off Vince or anybody else. All I want to do is help a company and help them make money. If that's not good enough, well, then, bro, it's not good enough. What can I say?
Here you go. All righty, man. Well, the book is out now, and it looks like it's getting a lot of attention from the Internet fans. And you know what? I hope it gets more attention from the mainstream fans, too, because this book looks like it just is an amazing package. As you said, it's put together really nicely. The stories in it are priceless. It's not just wrestling. It also tells a little bit about the guys that maybe we didn't get a chance to know as much on the screen, because you guys were just, big, rough, tough, smash mouth style. A little bit more about you guys, and I think everybody wanted to know a little bit more about you guys back then. And
Well, that was the thing, man. There was always a mystique about the Road Warriors in that era of the business, you know. And I get in and I talk about Nikita and what his real name was, and you know, different things like that, and how he personified himself. And you know, it's a great story. You don't have to be a wrestling fan to love it. That's the greatest thing about what we've been blessed with in this wrestling business. You may not have heard of the Road Warriors or Legion of Doom, but you've seen our picture somewhere. Because we were one of the deals that crossed over. We have been in People magazine, we've been in Us magazine, we've been in Sports Illustrated, we've been in the popular mainstreams, Muscle Fitnesses, everything else. So
T-shirts and all that.
I've seen those guys somewhere. You know what I mean? So, I mean, and believe me, like you said, it's a good book, and Amazon's got it like number 14 on the top 100 sports autobiographies right now, which I think is amazing since it just came out like a day ago.
Exactly.
So I'm happy with it, man. And thanks guys like you helping me push the book and promote it. You know, I appreciate it immensely, and it's a pleasure to be on your guys' show.
Well, I'll tell you what, anytime you ever want to do anything again with us, you're always welcome on. Anytime you have any press releases, let us know. We'll post it on our wrestling website, Newsline, and, you know, anything we could do for you, man. We appreciate your time. And I told you off the air, I'll tell you now, it's an honor to have you on. Like I said, I don't know how we never crossed paths in 8 years, but I'm glad we finally did.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks a lot.